Episode 1, The Call of Darkness. Part 1. The snow was too white. The headstone too new. And everyone was too quiet. Aino stood at the cemetery in her black coat, hands deep in her pockets, staring at the ground. Her lips were pressed in a tight line, chin held high in that familiar way that made her mother sigh and her father shake his head. Stubborn 16-year-old, they said. Doesn't know how to behave. But no one understood. Grandpa would have understood. Paprika, he had called her. Sharp, fiery, a bit too much for some people. Aino had loved that name, even though she would never admit it out loud. Aino, come now, her mother whispered and touched her shoulder gently. The others are waiting. The others. Relatives who hadn't seen Grandpa in years. Neighbors who complained when Grandpa played Black Sabbath too loud in his garage. People who came to funerals because it was the proper thing to do. Aino nodded and followed her mother quietly. Behind her, she heard her aunt's voice. Thank God Christmas is coming soon. That will cheer the girl up for sure. Everyone needs to participate in Christmas preparations, it helps with grief. Aino clenched her hands into fists. Christmas. Of course, Christmas. The festival of pretense, forced cheerfulness, fake smiling and drinking mulled wine and let's all be happy because we have to be. Aino hated Christmas almost as much as she hated funerals. No. She hated Christmas more. At least at funerals you were allowed to be sad. Part 2. A week after the funeral, Aino sat in her room staring at the ceiling. Outside, dusk was falling even though it was only 3 in the afternoon. December's darkness felt appropriate. She wanted the whole world to be dark. Voices drifted up from downstairs. Mom and Grandma were talking in the kitchen, the coffee maker was gurgling, someone laughed artificially. They were sorting through Grandpa's belongings. Deciding what to keep, what to donate, what to throw away. As if Grandpa had never existed at all. Aino rose from her bed suddenly. Her chest felt tight in a strange way. She couldn't be downstairs, couldn't listen to them laughing and chatting as if nothing had happened. She couldn't watch them pack away Grandpa's Black Sabbath shirts and Iron Maiden posters. She pulled on her boots and slipped up the stairs to the narrow door leading to the attic. The attic was quiet and dusty. Dim afternoon light filtered through a small window half covered with cobwebs. Aino reached up and pulled a string, and a bare light bulb flickered to life, swaying. Grandpa's things. Boxes full of vinyl records. An old guitar in the corner. A leather jacket on a hanger. Old concert tickets stacked high, with names of bands Aino didn't know, Judas Priest, Motorhead, Saxon, Dio. Aino swallowed. Here Grandpa still lived. Here his metal still screamed silently against the boxes. She walked slowly inside, carefully touching the boxes. Dust stuck to her fingers. She didn't know what she was looking for, but something that would make all of this bearable. In the corner, under an old lamp, was a black leather bag. Aino stopped. The bag was different from the other items. It wasn't dusty. It gleamed strangely in the dim light, as if it had been waiting. Aino crouched down and opened the bag carefully. Inside was an LP record. The cover was black and silver, featuring orchestral symbols mixed with metal music aesthetics. In the center, in silver letters, Christmas Metal Tales Symphony Libretto Orchestra and Company. Aino stared at the record in confusion. She had never heard of such an album. Grandpa had never mentioned it. And Christmas. Grandpa wasn't a Christmas person. He was a celebrating metalhead, but Christmas? That wasn't his thing. Aino turned the record over. On the back cover was a track listing, all written in beautiful old-fashioned typeface. 1 Demon's Christmas Carol. 2 Christmas Metal Belongs to All. 3 Santa's Coming. 4 Metal Night. 5 Rudolph's Metal Power. 6 White Christmas. 7 Snowman. And at the bottom, in the corner, in Grandpa's handwriting. For Aino, when you're ready to understand. Aino's heart jumped. She recognized the handwriting immediately. Bold, sharp, like her own. Paprika. Aino clutched the record tighter and looked around. In the corner was Grandpa's old record player, a dark brown box with massive speakers. She remembered when she was little, sitting on Grandpa's lap and listening as he explained why Ozzy Osbourne was a genius. Osbourne, he had said, not Orborne. Ozzy's name is spelled Osbourne, remember that, Paprika. A legend deserves respect. Aino hadn't understood. She hadn't liked metal. Too loud, too chaotic, too much. She had wanted to listen to slower, softer things, something that didn't scream. But now. Aino walked to the record player. She opened the lid carefully and placed the record on the turntable. The black vinyl gleamed in the light of the bulb. She took the tone arm and lowered the needle carefully onto the first groove. For a moment, nothing happened. Then. Part 3. The sound began quietly. Strings. A symphony orchestra rising from darkness like a ghost. Aino stood in front of the record player and listened, her heart pounding against her ribs. The music changed. Dark church bells, distorted and oppressive. A demonic choir began singing in Latin, words Aino didn't understand but which seemed to cut through the air. Tenebri natalis. Umbra festum. And then everything changed. The attic disappeared. Aino gasped aloud, stumbled backward, but there was no floor. She didn't fall. She floated. No, she was sinking. In darkness. Inside the music. Down in the depths where shadows dwell. The singer's voice was deep, a dark tenor, and it filled everything. Aino tried to scream, but her voice made no sound. She tried to grab onto something, but there was nothing. And then she fell. Part 4. Aino hit the ground hard, breath knocked from her lungs. She lay on her back for a moment, gasping, hands against the ground, trying to understand what was happening. She was no longer in the attic. She was somewhere. Aino sat up slowly and looked around. She was in a great hall. She couldn't see the ceiling, only darkness and shadowy vaulted arches. On the walls were torches burning with green fire. The floor was stone, cold and slippery. And in the air was a smell, something sulphurous and burning. Beyond the music came sounds. Laughter. Singing. Celebration. Aino got to her feet unsteadily. Her heart was pounding. Her thoughts were confused. What the hell is this? Am I dreaming? Is this some kind of fever dream from Grandpa's death? But no. This felt too real. The cold floor under her boots. The smell of sulfur in her nostrils. The weight of the music against her chest. Demons gather round the fire, singing carols dark and dire. Aino walked slowly toward the sounds. She wound through a long corridor, the torches guiding her forward, and then she came to massive double doors. The doors were open. And inside. Aino stopped and stared. The hall was enormous, full of beings. Demons. There was no other word for them. They were all sizes and shapes, small, quick-moving imps with glowing green eyes, large muscular orc-like figures, slender shadow-like beings that moved like smoke. All had horns, all had teeth, and all were smiling. They were celebrating. In the center of the hall was a huge fireplace burning with red and orange flames. Around it were tables laden with food and drink. An orchestra played on a stage in the corner, a real orchestra, demons with instruments, strings screaming and brass blaring. And a choir, a massive demon choir, sang Latin so powerfully that Aino's ears felt like they might burst. Cantus demonum. Letitia tenebrarum. Aino stood in the doorway, unable to move. This was madness. This couldn't be real. Well now, welcome. The voice came from behind her. Aino turned quickly and saw a demon who was almost human. He was tall and slender, dressed in a dark suit that seemed too elegant for hell. His horns were small and gleamed like silver. His eyes were red, but they smiled. "You're not a demon," he said, tilting his head. "Or are you? There's something fiery about you." Aino took a step backward. What is this place?" The demon laughed, a deep and pleasant sound. This is our Christmas, dear child. The demon's Christmas. You didn't think only you up there get to celebrate? Demon's Christmas? Aino repeated. Her voice sounded shrill in her own ears. Of course. The demon gestured to the hall proudly. We celebrate too. Not holy, not pious, not forced kindness. Just darkness, freedom, raw joy. Tenebrae Natalie's Christmas of Darkness. Aino stared at him. But you're demons. And? The demon shrugged. Don't demons have the right to celebrate? Look around you. Aino looked. The demons were dancing, laughing, eating, and drinking. They didn't look evil. They looked happy. Wildly, fiercely, unrestrained happy. You come from up there, the demon continued, stepping closer. Where Christmas is light and gift exchanges and love. But tell me, does it feel right to you? Aino swallowed. I don't understand. Do you hate Christmas? The demon asked directly, his red eyes studying Aino's face. Aino opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No point in lying. We're in hell. The demon smiled pointedly. Yes, Aino whispered. I hate it. Why? Because it's hypocritical. Because everyone pretends. Because I'm supposed to smile and be happy when Grandpa just died and everything is shit. The words hung in the air. Aino gasped, her eyes burning. She hadn't said it out loud to anyone. Not to Mom, not to Dad, not to anyone. The demon nodded slowly. There it is. The truth. Look, child, Christmas up there requires you to smile. Here you get to be angry. Here you get to be sad. Here you get to be yourself. Aino looked at him, her thoughts spinning. But you're evil. Evil? The demon laughed. We're honest. We don't pretend. We celebrate darkness because darkness is as true as light. Isn't it? The orchestra played something magnificent and terrible. The choir shouted. Natalie's Infernus. Gloria Umbri. Come, the demon said, extending his hand. Celebrate with us. Just once. Let the darkness touch you. Maybe then you'll understand. Aino looked at his hand. Her heart was pounding. This was madness. This was wrong. But she wanted to. She wanted to scream and shout and be angry. She wanted to stop pretending. Aino reached out her hand carefully. Part 5. The demon led her into the hall. The other demons turned to look, their eyes glowing. Some whistled, others nodded appreciatively. Human child, someone shouted. Welcome to hell. Will you dance with us? Another asked, spinning around her. Aino felt small and scared, but the demon held her hand tightly and led her to the center of the hall, near the fire. Listen to the music, he said. Listen to the story. Aino closed her eyes and listened. The orchestra was playing more slowly now, more dramatically. A soprano voice rose above the choir, high and beautiful and sad. Ancient spirits rise tonight, Christmas dawn brings no more light. Aino opened her eyes. What does this mean? It means that Christmas isn't just light, the demon explained quietly. It's also darkness. Memory of those who are gone. Grief. Longing. Anger at those who don't understand. And we demons, we celebrate that darkness. Because without darkness, light is nothing. Aino stared at the fire. The flames danced, red and orange and even blue at the base. She thought of Grandpa. Grandpa's laugh. Grandpa's voice when he sang along with Sabbath, I am Iron Man. He loved metal, Aino whispered. Who? My grandpa. He loved metal. Old metal. Ozzy Osbourne, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, all those old bands. The demon smiled. Your grandfather knew. Knew what? That metal is honest. That it doesn't pretend. It's raw and powerful and it accepts darkness. The demon looked at her. You don't like metal, do you? Aino shook her head. It's too loud. No. It's too real. It scares you. Aino opened her mouth to protest, but the demon raised his hand. Listen, he said. Listen to what the music says. The song was reaching its climax. The choir sang with full force, the orchestra played so loud that Aino's ribcage vibrated. Demon's Christmas. Unholy Night. Shadows dancing in firelight. Christmas carols from the deep. While the righteous mortals sleep. And suddenly Aino understood. This wasn't about evil. This was liberating. This was the right to be yourself, the right to celebrate in your own way, the right to say, I'm not like you, and that's okay. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she was smiling. Do you see? The demon asked gently. Darkness isn't the enemy. It's part of you. And Christmas, real Christmas, it accepts everything. Light and darkness. Joy and sorrow. You as you are. Aino nodded, her voice choked. The orchestra played the final, magnificent chord. The choir shouted one last time. Victoria Demonum. Semper Tenebri. And everything began to fade. Part 6. Aino opened her eyes. She was back in the attic. The record player was silent. The record had stopped spinning. The light bulb flickered dimly overhead. Aino stood there for a moment, breathing heavily. Her hands were shaking. Her cheeks were wet with tears. What just happened? She looked at the record. It gleamed quietly on the table, black vinyl surrounded by silver light. Christmas Metal Tales Symphony, Aino read aloud. Her voice was hoarse. She looked at the back cover again. Grandpa's message. For Aino, when you're ready to understand. Aino swallowed. She understood now. The record wasn't ordinary. It was a portal. Each song was its own world, its own story. And Grandpa had wanted her to find it. Aino touched the record carefully. 7 songs. 7 stories. 7 worlds. She should be scared. She should run downstairs and tell her mother that she had just traveled to hell and talked to a demon. But she wasn't scared. She was curious. Aino lifted the record carefully from the player and placed it back in the leather bag. She held it in her lap for a moment, thinking. Tomorrow. She would listen to the second song tomorrow. She stood and walked to the attic door. She turned once more to look at the things, Grandpa's old records and posters and memories. Thank you, Grandpa, she whispered into the darkness. And in the silence, right by the record player, the light bulb flickered once like an answer. Part 7. That evening, Aino sat at the kitchen table watching her mother and grandmother bustle about. They talked about Christmas preparations, gingerbread cookies, the tree, presents. Aino, her mother said kindly, tomorrow we could bake gingerbread cookies together? You've always liked gingerbread. Aino looked like she was about to say no thanks as always. But then she thought of the demon's celebration. Their freedom. Their right to celebrate in their own way. Okay, she said quietly. Her mother startled, eyes wide. Really? Yeah. Aino shrugged. But can I play music? Metal? Silence descended on the kitchen. Grandma looked at Mom. Mom looked at Aino. Then Mom smiled slowly. Grandpa would have liked that. Aino felt warmth in her chest, for the first time in weeks. Yes, he would have. Later, when she was in her room and the others had gone to sleep, Aino looked out the window. Snow was falling quietly, white flakes against a dark sky. She thought of the demon, the fire, the choir. She thought of Grandpa's message. 7 songs. 6 remaining. What would they tell? Aino turned to look at her bookshelf, where the leather bag rested safely hidden behind books. The record was waiting. And for the first time in months, Aino felt something other than grief. She felt anticipation. Christmas was coming. And this time, maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't be so terrible. End of episode 1.